Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have someone who is a conflict resolution coach who helps Asian American leaders advance in their career and life journeys. Jerry Fu, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Hi Dave, thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted to see you here. Jerry. I encountered a lot of conflict. My background's firefighting, so I was firefighting for most of my professional career before, going into coaching and doing podcasting, etc. So, I'm aware of it. I'm not doing exactly what you're doing, but just to give my listeners, before we go into the work you're doing, just give my listeners an idea. Tell us about your background and what you was going through that led you into the work you're doing now.
Yeah. It'll be a 100-mile sprint in 30 minutes, but we'll see what we can do.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, basically my parents came over here from Taiwan for grad school initially, and part of the reason they wanted to come over to the U.S. to make a different life for themselves was that they were tired of the threats from China. That was a safety thing for sure. And so they felt like the wiser risk to take was to start a new life in the U.S. So
when was that roughly? I've got a politics degree as well, so
about 76. Yeah, well, it hasn't changed. Right. Like China's still threatening Taiwan, so that's a whole other
I know.
tangent.
It's just before the Tiananmen Square massacre, the thing, because I went to Tiananmen Square 2 years ago, actually. Put it on my Instagram. It's still there, I think. No, it's not there now. I went back to China later that year and they didn't kick me out, so that's all right. Because obviously I was rubbing it in a bit. This is what happened at Tiananmen Square, because I think it was the 40th anniversary when I was there in 2019. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's something to celebrate. But we're good. It's again, some things never change, right? And so anyway, my parents come over here and they settle in Wisconsin, which is where I was born, and there are some Asians there, not a big community. And between just, feeling like an outsider and just trying to fit in other places, right? Because now I'm too American for my Taiwanese family, but I clearly don't fit in here, right?
Well, you was born there. It's just like me. Obviously I'm from African Caribbean and Mauritius, which is an island near Madagascar, the film Madagascar. So.
Yeah.
So culturally, I know the background, but like you, I was UK born, so.
Oh wow! Yeah.
You take on the culture of what's around you, don't you? Really. But obviously, also taking in the culture of what your family's, direct mother and father's kind of teaching you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So from there, actually, childhood was actually pretty simple and normal. Nothing scarring or anything like that. It wasn't until the academics probably got higher stakes where some of the emotional scars come in, because my dad's job took us down to Tennessee when I started 6th grade, and
when you started 6th grade,
this was like 92 or 91 or 92.
No, it's when you started 6th grade.
Yeah. When I started 6th grade, yeah. And so this is when they started applying the academic program, quote, to say doing SAT books on Saturday mornings and things. And
SAT,
it was tough just because my dad taught me the same way my grandpa, his dad, taught him. Telling me my head was made of concrete if I didn't get a math concept soon enough.
Well, I was going to say, did maths get drummed into you? That is the thing, really,
Yep. And so, for better or worse, once I started winning things, like math competitions and stuff, it felt good.
Chess.
It took a while. Oh, chess was great. I love chess. Both the American and the Chinese kind, actually. And so, high school, did well, was finished in top 10 in my class, got into a good university here in Houston, actually, called Rice. And so, me being very short-sighted, I thought that was enough, right? Oh, got into a great school, and okay, now I can take the gloves off and, kind of coast. It's like, no, now you're just getting started, right? Now, now you have to work harder. It's like, oh shoot, now I'm going up against even harder competition than what I did in my high school. And the first wake-up call hit when I got a C in organic chemistry. And, because I had declared myself to kind of be pre-med, I thought it would be nice to be a doctor, but clearly I didn't have a solid vision as to what I would be doing as a doctor. Contrast this with one of my best friends from high school who knew he wanted to be a pediatrician. He was great with kids, and, he has a growing practice now because he saw the end game in that. For me, though, right, for a kid who, had his mom looking over his shoulder, making sure that he didn't mess up or get too distracted with other things. Now when that that guidance isn't there, right, and I'm not leading myself, right. This is what happens, right. Yeah. I said, well, in my mind, right. Oh well, not going to bother with med school. That's just death, right. I didn't want that shame of getting rejected or even waitlisted for med school, and so I said, well, what else can I do? I still want to do healthcare, but what else is out there? So I said, well, pharmacy seems pretty viable. So let me convince pharmacy schools that I would make a good pharmacist, and let me try that out. And so finished pharmacy school, moved back to Knoxville where my family was now, and decided to take my mom's advice to work for a chain pharmacy for a couple years and just deal with that. And so the problem was that I wanted to actually work for a different chain, but she thought otherwise, just because even though she's never worked a day in her life in pharmacy, she felt like she knew what was best for me, right? Moms always know best. And so so
depends on the situation.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, even if they don't know, they're still going to insist that they know, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I got complacent working for this chain pharmacy because at one point I actually had flexibility scheduling, things like that. So I said, well, you know what, as long as I'm better than 70% of my working colleagues, my boss seemed to be pretty happy with me. So I just left it alone at that. But once that window of scheduling flexibility and, free time kind of went away, when I transferred to a different store, I said, okay, I'm unhappy again. Right now, this is about 5 years into my career with them, and I said, okay, nope, I don't care if you give me a third week of vacation. The other 49 still stink. It's not worth it. And so I wanted to get into teaching pharmacy students, but I didn't have a PhD or a residency. But a friend of mine who worked for a pharmacy consulting company here in Houston said, hey, I got promoted. My previous teaching position's open. Do you want to apply for it? I said, absolutely. And so I convinced the company to take a chance on me. I'm walking away from a full-time position with benefits to take a part-time position with the hopes of earning a full-time position. And this company was highly coveted. Huh? Oh, it was a drop in pay too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hourly and quite the cut. And but for me, it was worth it because I wanted a higher quality of life than what this chain pharmacy was offering me. And so you see this conflict, right, between my mom's life plan for me, according to what she grew up believing was successful, and then for me saying, no, I don't like this deferred life plan, to bank away money and hopefully one day get to do what I want, and hopefully my health is still at a point where I can still kind of have some mobility, is just not a good risk to take, right? At least for me. And so I was looking forward to making something work with this company, teaching, and hopefully would be the last company I ever had to work for. And 11 months later, I got fired. And so that's when, no, it's my fault. I tell people, I said, look, I like the idea of being an instructor more than actually doing the work of being an instructor. And, I was still in this mode where I thought that as long as I could convince my boss why I didn't get the job done, that somehow it would be okay. But this was a new thing for me because now I'm not able to compete against 70% of my colleagues. I'm being held accountable to the position I was hired to do. And so in hindsight, 11 months is very generous because, when I lost my boss's trust, basically the the linchpin precedent that really kind of shot me in the foot, or you could say, or dug myself in a hole, was when, I was supposed to draft test questions for the fall semester, and I got scared, I got writer's block, whatever it was, but I didn't get the job done. And I hid it from my boss until the first exam came around. She, came in early to compensate for the fact that I wasn't pulling my weight. And, from there, it was just playing uphill and from that. And so, after 11 months, they said, no, whatever's going on with you, it doesn't matter. Like, you're done. And what do you do, right? I had moved to Houston for this job, and I couldn't go back. They had filled my position already back home, and longest 4 miles drive home, Dave. Like, and I'm like, what do I do?
As in what was going through your mind, you mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I just couldn't believe, and I thought about the shame and the embarrassment, because everyone's going to ask,
felt
what
like
happened?
grief as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so after 6 weeks of looking for things, I was very naive in what else was out there and what kind of people were out there. Houston is a city known for drug diversion, actually, and so unfortunately for me, drug diversion. So there's a lot of people who set up pharmacies just to run scripts for doctors who are willing to write pain meds for non-legitimate medical needs, and they just make money that way. And so unfortunately for me, when I was trying to find a job, I ended up applying and taking one of these jobs at one of these quote pill mills. So now I'm jeopardizing my license, and even worse, my paychecks are bouncing. Like, they're not even paying me. Like, four of my paychecks bounced working for this guy who convinced me, you're an academic, all right, I think you'd be a good fit here. We'll start paying you. We'll get you started right up.
Yeah, so you damaged your CV a bit.
Oh God, yeah, damaged a lot of things. And my bank account, absolutely, I can't even pay my bills.
So what you're saying is, because I used to do track and field athletics, and obviously the drug cheats there. One of the things they do, I think they call it PEDS.
Oh yeah,
where it's
performance enhancing. Yeah.
But they call it like, it's basically they get a prescription, which is performance enhancing.
Oh yeah.
But really, it's not for them. Like, there's one for thyroids, which is performance enhancing, but they haven't got a thyroid problem. Is that the kind of thing where they actually get that prescription to help them? Is that the sort of thing you was doing that place was doing in Houston?
Basically, this was more along the lines of there's a combination of Norco, Soma, and Xanax that basically gets people high. And
right. So it's kind of recreational kind of drugs.
Exactly, it's recreational.
Like ketamine and stuff like that. Ketamine.
Something like that. Yeah. And so it's you get all sorts of crazy people coming in, right? You just I don't want to be a part of this, but I was in a really bad cycle because now I'm like, I don't want to jeopardize my license, and the guy says, well, I can't pay you unless you move scripts and merchandise.
That's very
and plus
very
dodgy. And my own conflict aversion, right? I'm just like, how do I confront this guy like when he's clearly ripping me off, even though he says all the right things and apologizes and whatnot, but he lost my trust, right? And so after 9 months of that, my friends get me out of that job. They get me on with a pharmacy that is doing pain management legitimately, but they say, hey, we like you, but we can't pay you more than 8 hours a week. And I said, well, okay, now what do I do? And I end up working for them in Austin, which is about 2.5 hours away from Houston, and with no idea what my life is going to look like at this point. And so this summer, this is 2012 now, and this summer I had the random opportunity to help with some leadership workshops through a pharmacy nonprofit that some of my friends run. I've been facilitating workshops on the fraternity side, but they said, hey, our leadership meeting, we need some help. Can you step in? And I said, absolutely. And so that was kind of the genesis moment for me, Dave, where teaching leadership and seeing it modeled for me, kind of like gave me some possibilities. Because before I would tell myself, leadership is hard. I don't like being bad at it. I don't want to put myself in the situation where I would fail. And that's kind of, hand in hand with all the conflict aversion that I would, grow up with, because my mom would always tell me, hey, no, if people are upset with you, just give in, right? You don't want to upset them. You don't want to, even if you're right, even if they're being unfair or inappropriate, just, let them have what they have. And, so this was different for me, right? When you realize, hey, I have to address problematic behavior, otherwise I can't expect it to get better on its own. And even after I taught this and had the confidence to take a full-time position that opened up in Houston. So I was ready to move back. I was ready to take on this challenge. I knew I couldn't stay safe at a quote safe job. I actually got written up the following year because I refused to engage with technicians who were not pulling their weight. And so management wrote me up because they said, hey, look, like their behavior is a problem. And if you are not willing to discipline them or even fire them, right, you can't be, this is not good. And so thankfully, I got myself out of that doghouse right as that company had their funding pulled. And so I'm sitting there going, God, what do I do? So randomly, again, found another life raft at the very last minute. And the great thing was the guy told me, hey, the only reason we're having this interview is that, you have leadership experience on your resume. And I said, wow, that was a really good decision on my part. And so that's why I tell people that leadership saved my career, because it gave me job options I wouldn't have had otherwise. The wrinkle that I didn't want to admit to was that these jobs are like icebergs, like smaller pharmacy jobs that actually offer a good quality of life. These things are like icebergs. They melt after 1 or 2 years typically.
Oh,
and
right.
so
the independent ones, not the chain ones, you mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just really ruthless what insurances and bigger companies will do to kill off independent pharmacies. And it's a pretty ugly picture, and people,
because we don't have that system in the UK. We don't, we don't have an insurance. We do have an insurance and private medical system, but it's very, a small. Yeah. It's predominantly free healthcare through, kind of social tax. It's taken out taxes rather than a national insurance.
Yeah, no, it's nice when you can rely on that.
Private insurance is like the mafia sometimes, aren't they?
Absolutely. Nope. When you have a scarcity mindset, right, this is what happens. Like, I got to take what's yours, otherwise I don't know if I have enough for myself. And on one hand, you need to be strong, and if you're going to be a business owner, right, you want to protect your territory, and at the same time, maybe there's a better way to help lift everybody up instead of trying to like undercut each other, right, towards the finish line. So anyway, end up at another independent. Somehow, again, I'm just landing on my feet just at the last minute for several years now. And I was actually at a company for 2 years that had a really great work environment. They were, I was doing interesting work and it was fun. But yeah, again, just 2 years, insurance audits took them down because a lot of insurance companies, they audit pharmacies not to make sure all their T's are crossed and I's are dotted, but they're looking for excuses, to take money away. They were like, oh, you didn't, it wasn't about, oh, we're trying to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. It is like we're looking for excuses to take money back for things we deem inappropriate according to our contract. So when my previous company went under 4 years ago, because they said, well, it's onslaught of audits, we can't keep up with it. We can't defend ourselves, so we're going to stop. I said, well, I'm tired of chasing scripts and tired of, fighting these insurance companies. But I love teaching these leadership workshops since I've consistently done since 2012. What would a career in coaching and facilitating and presenting look like on this topic that clearly means so much to me now? And self-declared as a coach, but still very scared of rejection, still very scared of failure.
No, but I mean, a lot of it's experience-based, and it's like everybody's human, even doctors and pharmacists like yourself, they're all human, and they're not they're fallible. Well, you will experience the same thing as any other human being.
Not fair. It's just, I'm not in this entirely consistent growth mindset, right? Is basically what I'm trying to say is that, I still felt failure.
You're just sharing what you experienced and what you know, and as a leader, what you can teach as a leader.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I said, well, so some friends were kind enough to give me a chance to, lead some workshops because they knew I was pretty good at facilitating. And what I tell people, Dave, it took a pandemic, for me to finally wake up and realize how much longer are we going to put this off, right? When will I get skin in the game? When am I going to have to pursue this career that I might actually be, happy with?
So the pandemic slowed it down.
The pandemic slowed. Well, I didn't open my business until October of last year. So, I hadn't. It kind of stalled. I only had a couple clients at that time. I had some like that. It was starting to ramp up right as the pandemic hit. Actually, I managed to get one of my bigger paying clients right before in February of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and then it was just nothing right after that. That was hard. And yeah, had to learn. Thankfully, still have my day job as a pharmacist. That was hard.
Yeah.
Like, we still scraped by.
Yeah.
And then, in October of last
Breaking
year,
even.
Okay, oh God, yeah, I felt bad for my owners. They
As
were
most
like,
people did. I mean, there's a lot of, I heard of millionaires literally going bankrupt because of the pandemic. It depends on the business you're in, obviously. But pharmacy is not really an issue because you need medicine in it. And obviously, that's one of the business that was open for business during. But you can imagine, obviously, the tourist business, if you had a travel agent, for instance, gyms, because I was a certified personal trainer before I'm doing coaching and stuff like that. On the side, as a sideline to my firefighting career, but obviously, like you, through experience, I'm doing coaching. But but anyway, yeah. So without digressing too much.
No, I mean that's fine. It's So basically,
so I can see how it slowed down, and you had to make ends meet during the pandemic, and stuff like that. Just giving my own kind of empathy there, really.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, absolutely, right.
So,
I know. No, it's fine. I mean, my staff got sick, right? And it was. I was at a breaking point. I couldn't go to my gym. I couldn't go out dancing. Right. None of the support things that I had in place before the pandemic started were there anymore. And I remember just being at a breaking point, just, I'm Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, just trying to stay connected with people. And
that's right. Yeah. Well, I've got a 6-year-old, so I was busy homeschooling her when I was just, I knew how to do my workout, luckily. I was out in the Philippines at the time. I'm back in the UK now, but, I was working out in a nice little resort. It was like Knockdown in Paradise, swimming pool, palm trees, and you know what I mean. So, it weren't hard to just get in a routine. And we was allowed out a couple of days a week with a pass to go to the, shopping supermarket, and if we needed drugs. Not the drugs, not the dodgy drugs you're talking about.
Yeah, the
we needed medicine.
Ones. Yeah.
That's all you were allowed to do, but it was all right. But, unfortunately, schools shut down and everything else. But, like yourself, I was setting up. My podcast exploded, but coaching, one-on-one, face-to-face was non-existent, as you can imagine. So yeah. I mean, before we go into the work you did, doing now, what do you think saved your career after you got fired?
Oh, yeah. Great question. I think, I mean, it really, I say leadership, and it really is the network, because the network on one hand was the first thing that, gave me this opportunity, right?
You mean networking with other people?
Of pharmacist friends, because it was a pharmacist friend who gave me this opportunity.
Yeah.
And also, it was also the pharmacist, if we want to say, who taught me. It's one thing to give me a fish, it's another who taught me to fish, right? And I'll sing this guy's praises till the day I die. A guy named Michael Negretti, pharmacist out in California, who I paired up with to teach these leadership workshops. And I saw how he firsthand helped me bring out the best in me and help me give me confidence to pull my weight and run through walls for him. And I said, well, how did he do that, right? And I studied it. That was the first time I really had the chance to reflect on, well, what made him such an effective leader? Why did I love working with him so much? And I said, well, he's fun to be around, right? There's warmth there. He's genuinely interested in me. He's fun to learn from. He's always reading new books and keeping up with new trends. He's tirelessly working. There's no question how hard he works when no one's looking. He's always collaborating with me. He says, hey, Jerry, I overhauled this, this day's content. What do you think of this? And so now you're like, wow, I want to keep up with this guy because he's involving me in every step of the way. And he doesn't beat me up for mistakes, or, he helps. Even if I make a mistake, he'll cover it, and then he'll take me aside and kind of give me some private suggestions. He doesn't embarrass me, right? And so I've incorporated this into my own leadership style so that, people, I hope people like working alongside me, and they'll say, hey, Jerry's going to look out for me. He's going to bring out the best in me. And so that was that's how I became more fluent in leadership is one way of putting it, right? Because before, leadership just seemed so foreign to me. And I just said, well, how do you get better at it? Well, just hold more positions. It's like, no, if you're not actually learning from a respected leader, or at least studying, things that make them effective, how do you expect to really grow? So that's I'd say Michael was the one who saved my career technically, not by giving me a job, but by modeling what effective leadership looks like day to day. Yeah.
Yeah, well, during the pandemic, I kind of pivoted more to being a resilience coach because obviously I was doing some life coaching combined, with my clients when I was doing the personal training, but resilience. And some of those things you're talking about, are kind of qualities of resilience, networking, collaborating, and stuff like that, really, which keeps you resilient while going for it. So that probably is what probably was. It's all neuroscience based, so it probably is what saved your career in terms of getting that brain.
Oh, it's up here. It's mindset
yeah,
first and foremost. If your mind's not
Exactly.
straight, it doesn't matter what other resources you have. If your mind's not
Exactly.
straight,
Yeah. And these are produced naturally in the body, so no need for drugs for that.
yeah. Thank goodness.
Excellent. Well, look, what are some tips you can give to my audience today to resolve conflicts effectively?
Yeah, sure. The framework that I usually walk clients through and workshops that I do around this topic. The first, okay, well, let me cite two books that you guys can read on your own. This is kind of,
Sure.
These are two things that I helped kind of build my own recipe from. One is called
Yeah.
Difficult Conversations, and the other is called For Conversations. You can find them both on Amazon. And specifically, the For Conversations talks about a specific type called the closure conversation. And they talk about how to apologize well. They talk about how to acknowledge, hey, there's a problem. How do we assure each other that we're still committed, and how do we build from that, right? How do we handle things going forward to prevent broken expectations from being broken again? And so the 5-step framework I kind of developed in my own processes was, number one, you have to imagine what a successful conversation sounds like. And by successful, this doesn't necessarily mean that you restore the relationship to 100%. Maybe that's not possible. Maybe you need to fire an employee, right? So a successful conversation means, hey, things aren't working here for you. The reasons you may have are legitimate, and at the same time, as long as you're not meeting the company's expectations, you should be free to move on to find a company that's more in line with what you can give them and contribute to them, right? And so you have to be okay with the fact that maybe it's a truce, maybe it's restoration, but you have to imagine what that sounds like. And so the wrinkle with that, Dave, is that when people think about, hey, this is the end goal. Time out.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Okay.
I managed to turn off one alarm, but not the other. So here we go.
No worries.
All right. Yeah. No. Let me rewind for a second. So, the second step, or the wrinkle that I tell people is that, you have to. The wrinkle is that when you imagine what success looks like, now you have that possibility. You allow for that possibility that you can have a successful conversation, right? Because a lot of people say, well, I don't like this, and I'm just going to charge ahead. If you don't even know what kind of target you're heading toward, right? That's it's just not going to end well for you, because now you're kind of having to think on your feet, but you don't have a target to hit, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I say, okay, imagine what success sounds like. Number two, find 10 seconds of courage. You don't have to be Superman or Wonder Woman. You just need enough to say, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone and make that phone call. I need to send this text. I need to, send that email. And you do it, just stretch yourself just enough so that you can, send what you need to, and then not default to comfort, right? Because a lot of people will rationalize, oh, well, maybe I don't want to send this. So it's like, no, you just need enough to set the ball in motion, and then make sure you don't give yourself a way out so that you have to move forward, right? You kind of shut that gate behind you. Third is to script your key phrases. And so in line with imagining what success sounds like, you want to be sure you organize your thoughts, right? Put it down on paper, everything that you want to be sure to address. Does it sound logical? Is there a better flow? Go ahead and get that organized. Fourth is to rehearse these key phrases, right? You don't want to just write them down. You want to rehearse them in front of a mirror. You can record yourself on your phone, get other friends to role play for you. So to say, hey, I need to ask for a raise, and I'm not sure how my boss will take it, right? Can you pretend to be my boss? And so we can kind of anticipate some of the things that he might say to push back. And then 5 is to do it, right? My biggest turning point in terms of dealing with conflict was to realize I couldn't afford to tolerate, underperforming behavior any longer, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a roommate that is sloppy with leaving out dishes, or, you know, a technician who continually shows up late, or others that continue to find ways to say, no, it's not my fault. You know, you can't assume that things are going to get better on their own, because they haven't so far. So what makes you think waiting another day is going to make anything better? So those are some of the tips that I give when it comes to navigating conflict.
Great. There's so much great value just given there out for my audience to listen to, and you certainly know your stuff from your own, like me, you know, from your own experience, and it's kind of like your calling in terms of that's what you're drawn to, you know, as a coach, you know, for your specialist kind of area, really, you know. So no, that's fantastic. And where can my audience find, you know, more about you and the work you do?
Sure. On one hand, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. The website, though, that has all the free goodies for you is www.adaptingleaders.com. Got some great things available. Free resources like a PDF download on a framework to handle hard conversations, kind of like the one I just went over. You can schedule a complimentary 30-minute call. Just if you say, hey, Jerry, got a situation, I'd love to, you know, get your thoughts on how to navigate it. Great. No strings attached. You can also check out my blog, where I summarize useful and interesting leadership books and offer, you know, other fun life hacks that, you know, you can try applying to your life.
Excellent. Jerry, this has been actually great talking to you, and you know, really engaging with what you've learned. And, you know, I think I'm probably going to learn something myself when I listen back on this while editing, and surely my audience as well will get some great value. And it's a pleasure having you on the show today. So thanks a lot for coming on the show and sharing this today.
Yeah, glad to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me. And good luck, everybody.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.